Hello again, folks. Barry here from Barry's 8-Track and Classic Car Radio Repair. And today's video is going to be a little bit unusual. It's not going to be a demonstration of a customer's completed unit. It's more a little bit of a sharing of what goes on behind the scenes here at Barry's 8-Track and Classic Car Radio Repair. And this has to do with I'm in the middle of my actually right at the end of my yearly September shutdown, where I service my test equipment and do things that I had put off all year long to try to get customers' units out. And I just received my September copy of Avionics News that I haven't read in like more than 5 years. I left that job 5 years ago, but so we're just going to chuck that. And the focus of today's video is going to be on the subject of, well, basically it's my test equipment setup that I'm going to share with you right now. I've got the bench a little bit sort of torn apart right now. I'm replacing my bench receiver with one that's a little bit more reliable. This is a really nice Panasonic quadraphonic 8-track player built into an AM/FM receiver. It's a nice unit, but being a consumer grade unit, it doesn't really hold up to a heavy professional use that well. So I'm replacing it, and then at the same time, I'm replacing one of my bench multimeters, and I'm going to show you my absolute favorite multimeter of all time. That's basically a meter to measure volts, ohms, and current for the most part. And my absolute favorite multimeter of all time is a Fluke 8520A. This is now, needless to say, I've got this thing gutted right now, and there's a reason for that. This is the original front panel of the unit, and the only thing I don't like about this particular meter is they're pretty old, and they only last about a month on my bench. You know, if I leave them on too long, they just crap out on me, and they are so complex that I don't really need that kind of complexity. It does all kinds of stuff that I'll never ever use in audio work, and so I need to find a way to replace this with something else. Now, another thing I really like about this type of meter is that you can see it's a full rack width, meaning that you can stack a bunch of stuff on top of it. A multimeter is any technician's most used tool, and so it really needs to be right in front. It can't be on the top of a big stack of gear, because you're always having to reach up and hit the button to change from voltage to current and stuff like that. Now I have a these full width meters are really hard to find. And when you do find them and they're relatively new, they're just so ridiculously expensive that it's just not appropriate to spend that much money on something I'm only going to be using to test AC and DC voltage and resistance. So what I'm doing on this is I have found a unit to replace this, and of course they're going to be these smaller units here. And these are nice meters, and they're newer, and they're going to last a lot longer, but the only problem is you can't stack a bunch of 20-inch wide equipment on top of something like this. It's just, you know, it's just not going to happen. And then also, I need a way to be able to remove this from the bottom of a stack and replace it without taking the entire stack of equipment down. Here's a little bit wider angle view of my bench. As you can see, I got a stack here that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of gear. Over here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of gear all stacked up. I really don't like to pull them all down to work on something that's at the bottom of a stack for reasons that should be obvious. So I need to make my okay, I just messed up my face camera, so I'll deal with that later. But I really need a way to remove this type of meter and replace it without disturbing the stack of equipment, without having to take all that equipment down just to get to this meter. One thing I love about this is a GW Instec model GDM 8135. It's a nice meter, and what I pretty much require in a multimeter is LED type displays, something that's nice and bright, that I don't have to worry about what angle I'm looking at it from. I can see it from any angle. It's quick and very efficient. And one thing about this GW Instec meter that the smaller Fluke meters don't have is it's got this little handy continuity check function. And as you can see, this thing goes off. If you're just measuring continuity, there's no need to have to look up at the meter. You know, if you can set this thing to where it just beeps, if you're reading like 5 ohms or less, that's a much more efficient way to measure just straight continuity. So that's another thing I like. That's another thing I really like about this meter. It's really easy to see the display no matter what angle I'm looking at it from, and so this is cool. Only problem is I want to convert this my old Fluke meter, the wide angle or the wide one. One thing that this is really good for when the meter section craps out is you can build other stuff into it. You just pull this front panel off, and I've cut holes in the front of this thing so that I can slide stuff in and out of it. And this can be at the bottom of a stack, and anything that's inside it can be easily slid out and replaced as needed. So I'm going to show you now one of the things that I made out of an old decrepit Fluke meter. If I can find the right camera, I believe it's going to be this one. Okay, this here is this is at the bottom of my middle stack of equipment, and this was actually built from this other meter. I've had like 3 or 4 of these. They've all crapped out, but you can gut them and build other stuff into the cabinet, so where you can stack other stuff on top of it. So this is basically just kind of a master patch panel for most of my pieces of test equipment. They all run into this patch panel, and then from there I can plug a scope probe into one of these jacks, and then I've got a switch over here that I can switch that probe to any one of these jacks. You know, you can see the LED moving across as I switch the probe to various pieces of equipment. That has just been a tremendous time saver on my bench, and with the volume of work I get, I really need to save any few seconds that I can without sacrificing the quality of my workmanship. So that's the thing that I kind of built into this this old Fluke meter case. And so now we're going to move back to what I'm doing with this case is, as you might have noticed, this meter inside of its cabinet, it just won't fit into this existing case. So I've done a little bit of insanity work. They say that genius borders on insanity, so you're either going to think I'm a genius or you're going to think I'm insane, and either way is fine. But what I've done here is I've enlarged the holes in the panel. As you can see, I do a very neat job at cutting holes here, and I simply just took a GW Instax meter out of its case, and now it can slide right into this thing. And of course, I'm going to put insulating material on the bottom of it so that the circuit board's not shorting out against other stuff. But this thing slides very nicely and neatly into this hole. And then once I work it to where it's flush with the front panel, which shouldn't be more than a couple seconds, it makes a really cool, neat little, it just really nice. I really like this, the way that it's coming out. And I'm going to paint this panel black so that it looks a little bit better there. So that's this meter basically inserted into this old case. And it's still a multimeter, but it's one that I can pull out and replace as needed without disturbing my entire stack of gear. Now on the left side here, this is going to be the new receiver that I'm putting in place, my new bench test receiver. It's one of these newfangled digital things that in order to adjust the individual balance, like the left-right balance or the front-rear balance, you gotta go into menus. And on the bench in the middle of a job, I don't really want to go into menus to adjust things. I want to reach up and grab knobs, just like everything else. I like knobs to every little thing. They're just much quicker and easier to work with. So what I'm going to do here is the main purpose of my receiver, my bench test receiver, is to just run signals through it. I don't even use the radio part of it. There's no need. I'm not really much of a radio listener. So I'm just going to basically. I need to have a 4-channel inputs, left front and rear, right front and rear. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a plate to go over this with 4 individual actual knobs I can turn, and that'll knock down that signal before it gets into the receiver, and that will serve as a really quick way of adjusting my balance. You know, once in a while I might hear a little noise out of the right rear speaker, and I want to turn down all the other speakers, you know, to hear that channel better. And you know, I really don't want to go into menus and and do all that crap. I just want to reach up and turn knobs, so I'm gonna do that. And then my new test receiver also has like just gobs and gobs of inputs that I can run their stuff into, and I really don't need more than the discrete 4-channel inputs for my bench receiver, but I'll go ahead and put another couple inputs. I'll have a little bit of spare room after I mount some controls on this thing, and so I'll go ahead and stick a few other inputs on this just in case I ever want to do something else with it. So there's my partially finished new meter scheme in which I can just, when the time comes, I just slide the old meter out and stick another one in there, and I can do this in a matter of about 10 minutes instead of half a day to break down all my equipment just to replace something that's on the bottom of it. So kind of an unusual video. I'm more or less kind of on vacation right now, and my idea of taking a vacation generally means I'm just not working on customers' units. I'm doing stuff in the shop. So let me fix my face camera here. And this is Barry with Barry's 8-Track and Classic Car Radio Repair. If you haven't completely lost faith in me because of my insane things that I sometimes do in the shop, you can reach me directly at 928-533-9666 if you have an 8-track player either for home or for car use in need of service. I also do FM conversions on classic car AM radios. I can add things like Bluetooth, USB reader, auxiliary input, and on some radios I can even double the existing number of FM station presets. So you're welcome to contact me for those reasons also. My website, an extremely informative website that's pretty well focused on 8-track stuff, is in the description below. Thank you very much for watching, listening. Thank you for putting up with me, and I hope that you still think that I'm a normal person after seeing some of the things that I do to maintain efficiency in the shop. Thank you very much for watching, listening. We'll see you next time.